My name is Rahul, and I'll be starting with a poem about my topic. Please try to bear with me. The movie will begin in 5 moments. The mindless voice announced. All those unseated will await the next show. We filed slowly and languidly into the hall. The auditorium was vast and silent. As we seated and were darkened, the voice continued. The program for this evening is not new. You've seen this entertainment through and through. You've seen your birth, your life, and death. You might recall all the rest. Did you have a good life when you died? Enough to base a movie on. That was a poem called The Movie by Jim Morrison. And he was the frontman for the band's Doors, and he's been taken off by the police there, but he doesn't look like the most reliable source, but actually he was an avid filmmaker, and he had a lot of thoughtful insights on it. Well, my topic, is about why we need movies. And by movies, I just don't mean movies. I mean like any form of passive entertainment, like consumption of, say, TV, radio, film, print, theater, or sports spectacles. We need such distractions as they're an escape, like a timeout from the real world problems. But when taken in excess, they can be consuming and often dangerous. Well, let's first start with why people would need movies, the importance of a story, let's say. Well, it's everybody has a psychological void, and this void is created when because of our insecurities or characters that we wish we would possess. And oftentimes we tend to relate to characters in a story, in a movie, or in a book. And the characters that possess these qualities, we tend to relate to them and almost imagine as if they were our own. These are some of the reasons that we actually like the movie, because we fill up this void with these characters. But when it's overdone, obviously, it can be quite consuming. Some examples, and oftentimes we emulate characters from movies and sitcoms, and this one was quite popular lately. And an example of this psychological void occurring was when, say, Jesus' followers, when they asked for guidance for parables and stories, or when, as kids, we asked our parents for bedtime stories, or when a certain Arabian king of legend asked for 1001 bedtime stories. It wasn't just them, it was us. We wanted to be told, we just didn't want to be told, we wanted to see. We like to picture in our minds and indulge in our imagination when reading books and viewing theater. But now we have TVs and video games. While the means have changed, the necessity remains, and people need an escape from the mundane and everyday hassles of day-to-day life. That is a popular movie that took place, and I remember not so long ago in dorms, guys were sort of dressing up like some of those people and imagining that we were one of them. And the results wasn't all that good. But it wasn't, there was actually a video of it. And that is probably not going to happen, but well, we tried. Well, kids, they just don't get bored and ask for bedtime stories. There's a reason. When playing video games or watching movies, when we hear the story, we tend to live out the story, at least in our minds. People feel the best when there are positive outcomes in real life scenarios. Even if the characters are unrealistic, like Hermit the Crab or something like that, we kind of relate to the emotional realism. And first of all, during this process, we're not psychologically passive at all, because we're actually imagining real emotions. And this effect is called self-determination. And it's basically like when we see a character in a movie or in a game, especially, we tend to gain the satisfaction or the enjoyment that the character is getting. That's why in the end of the movie, when say the hero kisses the girl of his choice or whatever, we feel as if, we feel bad for that. And especially guys who play Dota or Crows, they know that, basically, say, we're not exactly the berserker type, but we just feel as if, for once when we're on top, we feel good. Yeah. And this is basically the psychological pull of it all. And this experience can actually enhance psychological wellness, at least momentarily. And this is from the scientists from Rochester University. Yeah. So that's why Jesus' followers, when they asked for parables when they were faced with persecution and even death. I mean, they took, sorry about that, but they took inspiration from the characters in the parables. Say the parable about God, where God is the unyielding shepherd. They felt comforted by it, and they felt a sense of security, and they were able to face whatever came their way. I mean, yeah. And most of all, probably the Arabian king of legend. Well, the story sort of starts that his wife he was distressed over the infidelity of his wife, and as a result, he killed every other wife that he had, except for this one wife who would weave for him fantastical tales every night. And eventually that consoled him. And yeah, basically she wouldn't finish the tale until every night, and it took 1001 nights for it to complete. And yeah, that's like the suspense sitcom technique. And it just shows that sometimes we just need a break and a distraction from everyday hassles, and that's probably not how he looked. He probably looked something like that. But, yeah, so most people who are depressed and unhappy seek for distractions. That is a fact. A study came out of the University of Maryland that concludes that watching television contributes to viewer happiness, at least in short terms, but it has a negative effect in the long run. In other words, they found that those who say they are unhappy on average watch more TV, while those who are happy spend more time socializing with others in meeting. Yeah, well, yeah, Moldova is the most unhappiest country in the world. A lot of people only go to the movies there, but yeah. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, when it's taken in moderation, and neurological tests have shown that viewers are more engaged when watching a movie or a game. But however, after the game, like most people who game for long terms, they know that like there's a sense of weariness, and this follows them for like the rest of the day. And yeah, so there is an addiction to the experiences that to the emotions that we experience during a game. And yeah, that's why people do it so often. So it sort of makes sense. Like, in a philosophical sense, well, Jim Morrison, the guy in the beginning, he said that in film we seek to confirm our own existence. And in a sense, that is correct. I mean, movies and video games, they allow for us to be the recreators for once. For the artists to remake existence, and for the viewers to see it as they would like. So it is not a surprise that those who are least content with their lives would seek movies and games to confirm their existence. I'm not saying that everyone who goes to movies is like that, but those who overindulge in gaming or movies, well, they tend to be like Mr. Garcia. Like the time when Mr. Garcia in class, he told us like how he had to take care of his kid, and so he stayed in home for like taking care of the kid, and he felt really suppressed at that time, like he didn't really know what else to do. And then he sort of indulged in a sitcom that he didn't even like, and he watched it for many, like hundreds of episodes. Well, yeah, that was his escape, in a sense, from that suppressed lifestyle. And yeah. So, in movies and video games, we like to see our lives played out ideally. Like, movies can be like experienced as enhancing psychological wellness, at least in short term, but in the long term, it becomes like when we overindulge in them, it becomes sort of lifeless. These faked emotions that we sense of relaxation is only a short-term effect. After a movie or a session of gaming is over, you feel this tired weariness, and like yeah, you separate yourself from things that are actually important, like family and friends. In conversation and sports and critical thinking, and well, basically facing everyday life, there's an evident and real psychological wellness. And although one gets tired, there are real consequences, like a sense of achievement, freedom, and a real sense of social connectedness. A lot of people have few means to escape the mundane day-to-day routine, and even if they want to, like even if they hate it, like what they do. they might have a family to support. So like not everyone can like basically afford a health spa or a retreat. So we need movies in that sense. Sometimes a little fake hope can be a blessing to people. We need distractions. Without them, there's a lot of stress in real life and a lot of real problems and that combine in our life. Like for the Sultan, like who knows how many more wives he would have killed without like the moderate distraction that he got. I mean, when we watch too many movies or overindulge in video games though, we see our lives played out so many times that we often lose track of living. Movies and video games do make our modern myths, only it's just that they might sometimes obstruct us from what is real in life, like family and friends and ourselves. Yeah.